All right, folks, we are back for another episode, the Right Choice podcast here, and today we're interviewing Matt Hunter from Dooryard Property Management. Matt also has his real estate license, so he's been involved in the world of real estate for many years. He's
13? Yeah. Same
13.
as you. We're in the same class, Chris.
I knew it. I was just
Exactly.
I'm approaching my 17th year this year.
Wow.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Matt, I think we want to jump into. Chris and I have investor clients. You
Sure.
deal with investor clients.
Yep.
For any real estate agents or real estate people listening to the podcast, any investors, new home ownership that want to get into the investment world. I mean, there's real estate, there's entrepreneurship, and then there's the day in the life of a property manager.
It's fun.
Yeah. How long have you been doing the business? How long have you
Yeah.
been into it? What got you into it?
Yep.
Just a little
Yeah,
brief
no
history
problem.
on where this all came from.
Yeah. So like what Dave said, our company's Dooryard Property Management, Inc., and we have been incorporated since 2019.
Nice.
So we're on, almost our 5th year here.
Fantastic.
Right now, currently we're up to about 200 doors, mostly in central New Brunswick, a little bit in Moncton, a little bit in St. John, but mostly all right in here. And we cover a variety, pretty much everything. We have clients that live in Fredericton, and then we have clients who could be in Europe or the States, and that's another interesting thing too, just to go on a little tangent about the States. If you own property in Canada, we actually have to file your taxes.
Ha!
Yep. So we have
And that is a service you provide.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we have 2 landowners. They're just actually they're not like large multi units. They're 2 houses. Both of them live in California. Both of them are originally Canadians.
Okay.
And yes, they have to file their taxes in Canada, so we have to hold back a portion of the rent every month. I think it's 25%. The
Yep.
government of Canada makes us hold that back, and then we file it for them. And then they
Interesting.
the accountant does a T4 or whatever, and we send them that, and so that's just one little kind of an interesting thing about if you don't live in Canada, you still may have to file your taxes here in Canada, and we're currently doing it for 2 clients, and
Fantastic.
yeah, works out fine.
It's interesting to see the little caveats that kind of come with the business. Now, how have you found through COVID? They put the rent freeze on. They put the new owners being able to move in with a 3 months notice. They've changed a lot of the rules. What are you finding?
Yeah, we're just rolling with the punches. They all kind of change, to be honest with you, from year to year. We just keep up on the legislation. When we had rent cap in New Brunswick, that was only for 1 year. Then after that, it went away. So it's and we tell the landlords we follow Service New Brunswick laws. So whatever the government of New Brunswick want us to do, that's what we do. So all the security deposits are sent to them. They hold them. Then we follow their lease. We use their paperwork. Now, we do add a few little schedules, if that's the right word.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So it's good. It's important because the year-to-year lease or the month-to-month lease, it only covers so much. You want to, you want clear direction in anything, like investors and realtors want.
Of course.
It's, night and day. Did it happen or did it not? So we try and add, we don't try. We add a schedule just with little points that are, you have to use curtains. You have to keep your property tidy. If you have a deck, you have to remove the snow on the steps and the deck and the little area. Now, the landlord may or may not provide snow removal, but it would be their responsibility. And that's it's a document that can be edited. I've had some tenants say, no, we're not agreeing to some of this, and then we go back to the landlord, and the next thing you know, it's fine, it's edited. But our main goal too is just to give a hassle-free, hands-off, hassle-free property management experience to our clients.
Excellent.
So they can be around the corner or around the world. It doesn't matter. We cover it all. The move-ins, move-outs, Service New Brunswick paperwork. We can do snow removal, lawn care, light renovations. It's We do windows, doors. We've done a few kitchens of mid-grade, but
How many
nothing.
people are on your staff?
We have 3 full-time right now, and then we just are finishing up interviews this week before we go away for someone else, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have a licensed plumber on staff.
Perfect.
So
that's a huge score.
It is, yeah. It'll open up a lot of avenues for us, and it also, why we want our own folks on staff is the convenience of having that.
Of course.
So if say something needs a plumber's attention,
Yep.
not like a leaky tap or something, but like something you really need a plumber for, then okay, you're there the next day. Mm-hmm. We can get at it quickly, and our bills can be a little more reasonable as well. They're on staff, because if especially
they're doing general maintenance, but they're a licensed plumber at the same time.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. So
Great service.
We're gonna have that, and that'll open up some more avenues for us, and just to provide a better service to our clients.
Of course.
Yeah, because it seems we're always dealing with electricians and plumbers.
Right.
Yeah, always.
Appliance repair people?
Appliance repair. Yeah, there's a few in town. We use them all.
Absolutely. Now, what got you into property management?
Yeah. So I've been a landlord since 2006, and I made pretty much every mistake in the book. And this was pre me being a realtor. We bought privately. We didn't do a home inspection. The market was actually down in 2006 in Fredericton and central New Brunswick for rentals. So it was a lot harder. So we made every mistake in the book.
Sure.
So basically, I know exactly what I don't want. So therefore, it'll allow us to go back to what we do want. Right. And, we want quality tenants that pay on time and treat the landlord's property like it's their own, or, a high degree of, just care.
Sure.
If there's something leaking, we want to know about it.
Yeah, common sense.
If the wind, popped a screen door off, we want to know about it. Mm-hmm. We're going to come fix that screen door, so that way it doesn't affect the property any further. So that's how I kind of got into it. I did, business is business, but I used to, before I got into doing it for others, we would refer a bit back to people and this and that and different companies. And at the end of the day, I looked at the situation. I was like, you know what? I'm a landlord anyway. I know what I would want. We're smoothing out our process as a landlord. Why don't we offer it to other folks? So that was probably in 2018. That was before we were, incorporated and an official business. But then I started thinking, okay, maybe there's a market for this. I knew, Chris. I knew Chris was doing a bit of it. I knew some others that were doing a bit of it. And so anyway, we took the plunge, and it just kept kind of growing. And it's been good. There's been some landlords that actually work with you, Dave, that buy some things, you and Mike. And we went from a couple of units with them to now about 30-ish.
That's fantastic.
So, I think we're giving them a pretty good service. They're happy. Our bills are reasonable, and as long as people keep moving forward, it's good for us. But that was really the kind of the start of it. And
excellent.
I would never want you to name names, but have you had any real bad experiences with tenants?
Oh, yeah.
Because you always hear the great stories, right? Like getting into it, I find there's this sort of glow around being a property owner, and everyone thinks it's going to be super easy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yes, absolutely. No. I've returned rifles to the police station.
Goodness.
We've cleaned out some, because some of the times we get the landlords who just throw their hands up in the air and be like, I'm done with this. Mm-hmm. They, might not be able to sell it at the time due to whatever. Mm-hmm. So they're like, I'm completely done with doing it myself. So we've taken over some bad situations, which is, hey, that's understandably so. And I completely tell them, hey, yes, we'll take this problem. And hopefully we can work together. And
any advice for the first person trying to get into the real estate investment side of things?
Yes.
Whether you're buying a duplex, triplex, quad, or a large building.
Sure.
Any advice for that first time investor client?
Yeah, I would really take, if I was a first time investor, I would encourage them to take almost like, an online class or have a talk about investing. Because it's because at the end of the day, it's a little different than stocks and bonds.
Sure.
But really, if you boil it down to it, that's kind of the end result is you get this return or you get this return. Now, do you like your return being around the corner? Or do you, in our case, do you like your return being on Bay Street in Toronto? So, I would almost get them to take that and really focus in on what you want. Like, cap rate gets thrown around a lot. And I actually, if I'm asked, I never calculate it for people. The reason for that is it could be completely different. Dave, your could be completely different. Chris could be completely different. Mine could be completely different.
As to how we calculate
That's it. That's it.
And so much of cap rate. So I came back from the multi-unit conference last year, and they were saying that cap rate is one of the ones that they actually use the least, only because if you're paying more cash, right, the real investors, I find it becomes managing cash flow on a monthly basis versus managing the equity tied up in a property.
Yes.
So cap rate really has so much like how steady are you and what's your gross profit are the two major ones that people should be looking for.
100%.
Any recommendations on where to go to take a snippet course on
Well, just
intro to investing?
Not overly.
Just call Matt.
Well, you could. Yeah, you can if you'd like. That'd be great. Or one of you two guys. And I'm sure you could point people in the right direction. Sometimes they're financial planners. If you have resources, they're already working with a financial planner, like, I don't know, Wood Gundy or whoever one of those are. They'll have some classes and some opportunities about that. But you really need to look at what it's hard because when I don't ever calculate a cap rate, and my wife and we have 11 units so far and a little bit of storage. And it's just, that's what I really look at is the cash flow, the condition of the property for sure. Where I think or can guess where, there might be a future development happening. So I'll take that into consideration as well. I don't really, and to be honest with you, I don't really even write it down. It's more of hey, overall.
When you say condition of the property, is that because of the longevity?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. And so if you can, what I would look for when buying a property would be, I'd take a quick class. There's lots of them online. Everyone's trying to sell you a class nowadays.
Absolutely. Buy my booklet.
Buy my booklet. I'm the pro, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I would look at, cash flow for sure, condition for sure. Now, if you're buying the property, I would recommend, if you could get an inspection, then definitely get an inspection. At the very least, you would want your electrician and your plumber to look over, hey, what's this like? You'd want to take a look at the roof. So there's general things that, you could do. But what I would really suggest is sit down and calculate your own cap rate or own return rate for yourself.
That satisfies you.
That satisfies you. Yes. Sure. Yep. So that way, because I know some people include mortgage interest. Some people don't include mortgage interest. Some people include the whole mortgage. So it's right around that funding is there's three questions or three variables you could do. One thing I would suggest, though, that would help if you're going to buy a rental property, make your mortgage date the 15th, because it can take a couple days to collect rent. Even good tenants.
Sure.
I've had great tenants email and say, hey, payday's Friday, and it happens to be the 3rd or the 4th. Great tenants. We're not booting them out. We're not doing any action. Barely will write them a warning letter. You know what I mean?
For me, that was always something that when somebody would say, hey, Chris, I'm going to be a few days late on rent. Can we accommodate? As long as I knew, I never had a problem. Because I would do similar things like that. But when I had to chase you for rent, that was the fastest thing for me to evict a tenant.
Yes. Then we'll start, by day 2, we'll have the paperwork there. Hey, you got 7 days to pay, or this is an eviction notice. But what I would suggest to the investor buying is make your mortgage date the 15th.
Sure.
Normally your bank,
great advice.
Normally your bank doesn't mind anyway. You might have a little interest charge or whatever. My wife and I, we make all ours the 7th.
Okay.
The reason for that is just if, that situation, good tenant, payday's Friday, it's not till the 4th. And also if payday's the first, say rent is due on the 1st of the long weekend, well, our admin staff isn't in over the long weekend most of the time. So then we're probably looking, say the 1st is a Saturday, the holiday's the Monday. We're looking at the 4th or 5th anyway before we can process rent, get it sent to the landlord. So if you put your banking date the 15th or the 10th or 7th, that'll give us enough time. And that way you're not, unreasonably charged either. Or,
Sure. Makes
and
sense.
avoid some fees. So that would be a good thing to do as well. It just makes everything go smoother. And really, you just tell your mortgage advisor at the time of purchase, hey, make my date this. And normally they're fine with that.
Cool.
Yep.
What are some of the screening processes you have for tenants and owners?
Okay. Yep. Not so much for landlords. We will check to make sure, one, they own the property through Service New Brunswick and that sort of good stuff. And then I'll visit if they're local. I'll try and meet them here. If they're not, then I'll have a representative or what have you. We always want to almost do a little fin track on them.
Makes sense.
You want to have their ID. You want to know where they are, just in case if anything ever happened. Even legitimate things. Hey, we need to mail your statements for the year. We need to know where you live. Or where we can send documents. Yeah. So we do kind of a little fin track for all our landlords, and then view the property just to make sure. And we want to make sure that it's a fit. We want to make sure you like us, we like you.
Right.
It's not going to be sandpaper the whole time. You know what I mean? It's Matt's driving me crazy, or Doriar's driving me crazy. We don't want those situations.
Right.
We want it smooth for everyone, and so that way we have a better chance of a good result happening. For tenants, we have an application process that they all must go through.
Any advice for tenants out there that, what is the vacancy rate in Fredericton? Less than 1%.
It's pretty low right now.
Yeah. So I know when friends put their apartments on Marketplace, they'll get 50 calls.
Yes.
Any advice to a tenant?
Yeah. Make it just put your best foot forward. If you have a pay stub already, that's what we ask for those. Yeah. Okay. Hey, you work at wherever. Please send us a pay stub, or a letter, an employment letter. With newcomers to Canada, who are excellent tenants, by the way, we get a bank statement, because a lot of them come here, they have no credit, anything.
Right.
Some of them don't even have jobs, but they have resources. Sure. Because you need resources to immigrate to Canada.
Of course.
So there's just certain things we can do. We make them fill out an application for sure. That's the minimum. And then, if they're that newcomer example, then we get a bank statement, and then we keep it in our file. We don't, we don't advertise, hey, here's how much so-and-so has, and we don't tell anyone. It's all private information between us and them.
Yeah, of course.
And we don't even share it with the landlord.
Okay.
We just say we have verified their income for the year.
Excellent.
Do
you ever do credit checks?
Not yet. We can. There's free websites. I always find if you get the employment letter and a pay stub or other avenues like that, then, generally people need a place to live. So they'll forego a lot of other stuff like travel or whatever
to make sure they're
paying the rent. So as of now, we don't. But if a landlord was adamant that they wanted to get one, no problem. There's, we'll just go to one of those sites. We'll just say, hey, tenant, here you go. It's $40 or whatever it is to pay for it.
Right.
That's, if you're approved pending your credit check.
I've heard of lots of situations with owners checking the social media of prospective tenants.
Oh,
as
100%.
Well.
100%. I do. I check the social medias all the time. We check if they say they sold their house in New Brunswick. We're fortunate enough to be a realtor, so we'll go through the back end of Service New Brunswick, check to make sure, yes, they were the actual owner of that house. So between we can get a fairly good picture of the whole tenant before they move in. Like out of our 200 doors, we mostly only get maintenance calls. That's generally about it.
Because you do your homework up
we
front
do our
yeah.
Like that was the big part when my father and I bought the 4-unit in 2006. Oh my goodness. Like it was almost more work than what I do now. Because
just for one building.
Just for one building. It can be really bad. And I want to say to the landlords out there listening, I've gone through that really bad. Like we nearly lost it. We had a letter from Scotiabank, like we were behind. It was bad. It was in bad condition. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's I've gone down to
get your bumps and bruises.
I've gone down to the courthouse. Oh yeah. It's there's quite a bit that we've seen in with being a landlord.
Now, I know that you can claim the damage deposit if there's damage done. Have you been through many situations where you've had to proceed that even farther to go to small claims, or
General,
would you even advise that people do for the time and effort?
It would have to depend on how bad it was and how big of a renovation or a fix that it was. Now, if it's $20,000 and they completely beat everything, which I haven't gone through that, by the way, then yes, I would. However, so I've gone to 3 or 4 trials so far of disputing the security deposit. We've won them all because of our paperwork and our pictures and our move in and move out inspections. Sometimes the damage was a little bit more than what. So an example was we had a townhouse and it was the kids. They were nice kids, but they just went down and had crayon all through the carpet downstairs. Mm-hmm. The security deposit, after there was a few little dings and blemishes, then it was a little higher to replace the carpet. So in the end, though, the landlord and the tenant both agreed to just agree to keep the security deposit, and Service New Brunswick awarded it. And then once they award it, that's I believe that's final. That's I don't believe you can come back and reopen that now. But I have heard of landlords taking folks to small claims. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all would depend on the situation. And in my opinion, it would all depend on the damage, because you got to go down to the courthouse, you have to file a fee, then you have to go back to court. It's not a quick process at all.
Right.
It's
a little bit cumbersome, which is where you come in.
Yeah,
to be able to help.
Yes,
that.
And we would do it. However, we would charge extra for that too.
Okay,
that's not sense. In our regular. Now, a traditional hearing with Service New Brunswick, that's in our fees. We will present it. We will show up. It's because they're all calls. It's all
sure
a moderator, and they just call in. So you can be anywhere.
I used to keep specific things in my appendix because of the work that was involved.
Mm-hmm.
So if they left mattresses and all the different things that can be left, I just found that to be more of a pain.
Yes.
So I would always write in my appendix that we're going to charge you, we're going to get such and such moving company to come in at a high price to move it.
Yes.
Not because I wanted to charge them a high price ever.
No.
But I just didn't want to do it. Take your stuff out and let me clean it and move on.
I literally have my trailer on my truck after this to go get a couch and a mattress because someone's moving in tomorrow.
There you go. From an entrepreneurial and end of things, I guess.
Yes.
Any lessons learned from scaling your business?
Many.
Anything you'd like to share, like from a high level?
Yeah.
Just for somebody to think about.
It's the confidence, and you got to put trust in people.
Oh wow!
Because the more you grow, I'm not a micromanager at all. It's, hey, let's hopefully hire the right people, put them in a situation where they can win personally, spiritually, financially, whatever, and let's see the good we can all do together. So that's kind of my philosophy on business.
To hear that. Yeah,
it's I as long as everything's we're getting back to our landlords in time, and we're not perfect, we're human, we're all human. So but that's my biggest thing is, and then trusting that, hey, if you do a good job, you show up, you have a good effort, then the money will be there.
Right.
The clients will come, word will spread. You take a risk, or not, a little bit of a risk hiring people, paying them a decent wage. With us, no, I know minimum wage is 15, but in our company, no one's less than 20.
Okay.
It's just, I don't want the culture of not,
providing.
People being happy to be there.
Yeah.
That's so if, and I think part of that, a lot is financially. Could I go get folks that were maybe a little cheaper? Maybe. Then
can you trust them?
I don't know.
Do they have experience?
That's
Life
it.
experience is a huge part in today's society.
Huge.
And people, being able to deal with people and interviewing and questioning and problem solving. I go back to the common sense of, how much common sense do you have in order to solve this problem?
Yeah. And that's like with our staff, if the fewer calls I get, the better, because I know, and
operating.
they're solving these problems, which is great, because you don't need to call me because, well, I could be doing this, or I could be doing, who knows, I could be meeting with new landlords. You don't need to call me and ask me, hey, can I spend $5?
Right.
Yes, you can spend $5 because you already have the Visa in your pocket.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It just has to be responsible.
That's it. We're going to check the statements, but for the entrepreneurship, yeah, and it's the ups and downs. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't think I could go work for anyone else.
Do you have any goals in mind for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a dreamer.
That's good.
So I don't know. Like I would get a big kick out of being a regional property manager. I really would. Yeah.
Tell us what a regional property manager means.
That would be all of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it'd be. I think
You got
it'd
to
be
do
cool.
Newfoundland if you're going to do it.
Well,
You gotta do Newfoundland.
yeah. Then I would say Atlantic.
I know, but it's just a nice.
I wouldn't turn it down. You know what I mean?
And
but
this is on a residential side, or
Yeah. Yep.
residential and commercial.
Yeah.
Or?
Well, for now, residential, but it could be anything. And I noticed a lot of. I don't know if there is one that's in all three provinces. You know, I know there's landlords in all three provinces.
Sure.
You know, like Killam or some of the other big ones.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe you guys do or no.
I'm not sure. No, I don't.
I
don't
don't
know the answer to that.
And I see, I'm sure there's a need for it in all of those areas, or most of them.
Yeah.
So I don't see why there couldn't be.
So going back to the investment side of things, if I'm a viewer and I'm looking at a duplex, a triplex, quad, any recommendation on the best avenue to lean into? Because I've got clients that are looking at condos, duplexes, triplexes. They're hard to come by.
Yes.
So what is the right entry point?
Goodness. It's all, I would look at it all based on money. But I like 4 units.
Okay.
4 units, you can stick to residential financing. So you're 20%. It's, if you have a vacancy, well, you could be only potentially out 20%,
A
quarter of your investment,
Sure.
or less. So I have a 4 unit. There's 2 big units upstairs and 2 small ones downstairs. So if one of the downstairs units went out, should be like 15% of my investment is gone. So I still have that 85. So that's why I like 4 units is one lawn, 1 or 2 driveways. I just to me, if you buy a duplex, then half of it leaves.
Yep,
you're out 50% that month. That's just the way I view things. Now, it goes back to how do you want to calculate it? Where do you want to be? Now, mine, just because of where I am financially, they're all mid grade for the most part.
Okay.
They're not the $2,500 for a 2 bedrooms with indoor parking. They're the the $1,200-$1,300 with a nice little spots, but that's where I find myself. So that's what I like. I like the 4 units because of the residential financing, the lack of if someone leaves, then you're not completely out that month. You can make all your payments, most likely, and all that sort of good stuff. 1 driveway, but it's all people's comfort level. But bigger, in my opinion, is better.
Well, I think so many people, it varies on where you're starting, where you are. Like as a straight investor, obviously, the more units, as Matt says, to me makes the most sense. But I find so many people will start by living in a 2 unit and doing it that way.
Yep.
A single unit is so tough because when you're out
Very
the rent,
tough.
you're totally out.
Yep.
But then there's also programs like RBC for if you're going to live in the unit, you can get up to a 6 units still under the residential through RBC.
Right. Yep.
So there's a few niche products out there that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's different for everybody when you're getting into those situations.
No, absolutely. And it's where do you find the tenants? But it sounds like tenants are pretty easy to come by.
Tenants are pretty, and I always tell folks to say if the landlord's listening and they call me right off the bat, I say, give me 6 weeks. That'll give us enough time to find a suitable tenant and it'll line up. Like when people call me or email and say, hey, I have cash, I want to move in now. Why? I didn't ask for cash and I didn't ask for you to move in. I asked you to move in on the date that we're advertising.
Right.
So when it's too fast, there's something wrong. When picking tenants, you want
red flag.
You want the normal flow of a transaction. It'd be like, a realtor joining your firm. You do this, you do that, you go back and forth. It's not a fire sale. So but there is certain situations where it has to be fast. And then as long as the story adds up, like, heaven forbid, like there's a house fire.
Sure.
You gotta be in quick.
Yep.
Which is fine. And then we just do our background check to make sure, yes, it is a house fire. And,
That was always something for me. If you were willing to, for lack of better terms, screw over your last landlord.
Yes.
Then there's a good chance you were going to do the same to me.
Almost 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't want for those reasons. You're willing to break your contract illegally with someone else?
Right. That's just more work on my end for when you do it to me.
They're going to be in and out. And another kind of thing that I don't, I try and watch, but when people are always like, hey, it says year to year, will you do less? Normally that's what they want to do. So sometimes when you work with folks who want to do their own thing or not what is advertised or whatever, you could be looking at some issues down the road.
Sure.
Not every time.
Yep.
Not as much as, hey, I have cash right now, I want to move in today. But, if they're already working on you on the term, there's a good chance after that 3 months is up, which they want, they're out of there.
Well, the last few years, it's been really easy to turn them over. So I usually incorporate, if you're willing to work with me on giving me a reasonable amount of notice, I'll certainly help you out of your lease at any time.
Yeah.
And I don't do the guarantors. I usually just sign somebody else into a new lease.
Sure.
I find that
100%.
way easier.
Yes.
But I also was in the business when we were giving away, okay, well, if you sign up with us for 1 year, we're going to give you your 12th month free.
Yep.
We had to have incentives
Yes.
just to draw in tenants.
Yep. And that'll come back.
Absolutely.
It will.
How many units are under construction right now?
Oh, goodness.
I see them all over the
lot.
place. I thought, do you know the number, Chris?
I don't.
I think it was 1,700 or 1,800
That's
coming online.
And there's no way, it's ebbs and flows, just like anything.
Sure.
2006, it was bad in Fredericton. It'll be back there. It will. There's no way it can't be. And you just got to be prepared for it as a real, and a landlord or future investor. There's always a vacancy rate. There might not be today. There might not be next year, but there will be one. And if the good landlords build that into their calculations, we're going to have a vacancy rate of X.
Sure.
Because it'll happen. Just as sure as I'm sitting here, it'll happen. But yeah, no, but it's great. It's I would look at 4 units. Do your homework ahead of time. Use a licensed realtor, just to make sure you get the paperwork right.
Yep.
And to make sure it goes smoother. And then do
and
your
as
homework.
you say, the experiences that you've kind of gone through in the business, that's the benefit of having somebody else who's also has a bit of experience behind them, right? So
100%.
You don't know what you don't know when you're getting into this. And I've very similar. I made lots of mistakes getting into property management and learned tons. And I think I could write a book by the time.
Yeah.
I think most of us could.
Mistakes cost money if you didn't make any. But yeah, like my wife and I, our first house we lived together in, we had a rental in the basement.
Right. That's how I started.
Worked out great.
Yep.
Then when we sold it, we had a bigger down payment. We paid more down, for the next place. We don't currently have a rental in our home, but it worked out excellent.
We still do.
Do you? Yeah.
We still do.
Yeah. It's and really, it's not that bad. And the paperwork really is pretty simple. I'm sure if, they used one of us to purchase it, we could help them with a lease.
Of course.
Here's your lease.
So, in closing, any other tips, tricks, or anything that you would offer to whether it be a tenant, a landlord, or?
Yeah, no, just, try and, you go with your gut.
Sure.
Normally, if something's wrong, it's wrong. And it won't, so that's my biggest thing is if you don't get a interview whoever you're going to work with, we definitely want to interview future landlords or clients or whoever, just to make sure it's a right fit. And then, you can't, there's going to be hiccups, there's going to be mistakes, but, I would encourage whoever's listening to, definitely buy some rentals. The benefit definitely outweighs the cost.
Hey, that's good advice. I like it.
Great advice. My one piece of advice I would have for somebody who's trying to get or to be a tenant somewhere, when you send the one-word email as a response to an ad that you see, available, ? I'm probably not going to respond to that.
Nope.
Like if that's your communication skills, then we're going to have a relationship for a year because I do year-to-year leases.
Yes.
So
We as well. That's what we're based on our fees too. So we charge the landlord based on a year-to-year lease. If we don't get it, we don't get paid for that.
Right.
So that's why we do not offer. I don't do anything less than a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And if the landlords love it, because when they go to the bank all wants year-to-year leases. Right. So there's more than enough reason to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yep. Check us out at dooryardproperties.com.
Okay.
Or 506-304-3667.
You heard it here first.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. Appreciate it. Okay. Cheers.